Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Gus G from Firewind. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Congrats on the new record. It's coming out in a few days, May 15th. How excited are you to finally get this album out there to the audience?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Can't wait, actually. It's been, it's been a pretty crazy record to make, and it's a pretty diverse record. And we put out two singles so far, and they're both very different songs. And so, in that aspect, I really want people to get the opportunity to hopefully to check out the whole record, because they can sort of hear all there's a lot of things to discover in this album. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about releasing this finally.
I have to ask you this about the title of the record. You went with Firewind. Is this a nod perhaps to the early beginnings of the band? Because listening to this album, I felt a little bit like this album had a little bit of a throwback sound to the early records of the band.
I don't know what to tell you, man. It was like I didn't plan it like that. You know, when I started writing the music, it was like business as usual. I was just compiling stuff for a new Firewind album. So I didn't think, oh, it should be like, I don't know, Burning Earth or this or that. But I mean, I quickly realized that it's going to be a diverse record. So I realized that it's going to have elements from all sort of our past records. And I don't know, I can say that it's probably closer to albums like Allegiance or Premonition, which was in a way where they were the landmark albums for Firewind. And I think those albums had that kind of variety in there. And I think maybe one of the reasons why those albums worked back then was because of that kind of like broader spectrum of styles in there, you know, combined. And yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing after all. So I think you'll hear, you know, that's why I'm saying people should, it's an album that people need to sort of listen to from, you know, start to finish. Yeah, because there's all kinds of things in there to discover. It's definitely not the record where you hear one track and then you hear the same track 10 times. You know, those types of records I'm talking about. So yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's very diverse. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the album was super diverse from track to track. You guys did an amazing job as far as the track listing is concerned to create a really cool fluidity, dropping a ballad more into the middle. It allows the listener to get engaged with the record with the first song and then discover new things with every single song that comes into the mix, bringing something that they've heard before, but at the same time adding something new with every single track.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, like, when I when I pick out like the final track list for a record, I always think about these things. Like, people they've asked me like, oh, if there was a small concept on the record, like the 3 songs, like a trilogy, why isn't it back to back? Or even on the previous record, Immortals, aren't the songs like in chronological order? I'm like, well, whenever I make a track list for the record, I think about, you know, tempo changes, key changes, mood changes. Like, I want it to be like an experience. I'm trying to think of it as if somebody would just push play and then listen throughout the whole album. Mm-hmm. So I don't really think about, oh, if it's a concept, it shouldn't be like 1, 2, 3 or whatever. It should be like, I mean, what if the story started within the ballad? You can't start a record with a ballad. So, or I mean, you can, but it's just not like, you know, ideal. I'm not saying you cannot, but
it would be going outside the norm for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I think about mood changes within the music and tempo changes and, you know, like different key changes and how does one song finish and how does another one start and those types of things. So I wanted to have like this cohesiveness, this type of flow that you mentioned, like throughout the track list.
Well, what's your creative process when you start to think, okay, it's time for us to create a new album? I have some ideas of what I want to do. How do you go about putting everything that you need together in order to get to this final product?
Well, the way that I've been writing the last few years is, I just have this folder in my hard disk on my computer, and I just keep compiling riffs. So I got a bunch of riffs always in there, hanging out. So I don't know. Some of it ends on solo records, some of it ends on Firewind, and some of it, I also do collaborations. Like if somebody calls up and we write a song for another artist. But I always make sure that I have enough material laying around, and I revisit it later on, and a lot of it, it could be just a riff, just like a tiny riff, or like two riffs, like a intro and a verse, or some of it is like more or less complete, like the whole structure. So, and then I go back and sort of pick it up, and then I'm like, okay, I have a more clear vision. Like after when you kind of like have a distance from the material for a while, and you go back, you're like, it's easier somehow to be like, okay, I can see this and this riff kind of like being on this record, and then I start getting like a vibe for a direction. Okay, where are we gonna go with this? And this is how it sounds. Or maybe I have like 3 fast songs. I don't need so many more fast songs now. Maybe I should write something else, and I basically go from there. Just having ideas around and sort of like picking it up one step at a time, and then eventually it leads me somewhere somehow mysteriously. I don't know. It's hard to explain how it's done, but it's I guess it's that's why you need enough time to write a record. I don't like to push myself to be like, okay, now you have 10 days, you should make 10 songs. You can do it like that too. Many great records have been done like that, and I used to do it like that too, like in the earlier days. But now I want to be. I'm a bit more. I put more thought into this these days.
Does it give you a chance this way to kind of step back a little bit and then walk away from the music? Because once you're creating the music, if you're doing it over a short period of time, you kind of get lost in it, and then you can't see the forest from the trees. Creating it and putting it away allows you to be more clinical and also be a little bit more specific on certain things and be more critical of your own work.
Well, that's the thing also. It does help, but it never goes away on the other hand. I mean, for example, making this record, and towards the end, I wasn't sure if this is any good at all.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It was
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's a great record, but in the end, I mean, you have to also understand we went through a major lineup change, and I don't know, it was a bit strange in the end. I was like, okay, we have all these songs. I knew the material was good, and then a new singer, and I believed in the material, but in the end, I'm like, okay, I have this very, very different type of record here in my hands. So what are people gonna think? What is it gonna be like? They're probably gonna hear something like a song like Devouring, and they're gonna hear Space Cowboy and be like, what the fuck are you thinking, dude? So I didn't know. In the end, I had to play it for some of my a couple of journalists here that I trusted, and like some people from my close environment, like business partners and stuff. I'm like, well, what do you think? Is this any good, or should we fucking can it? I don't know. So it got to that. Sometimes you can. That's the thing. Like when you spend too much time with a record, it can easily turn into a Chinese democracy record. So I think anybody who creates music, or if anybody watches this who's a musician and stuff, they probably know what I mean by saying this. Yeah.
That was great. How did Herbie come into the picture? I know you were looking for a lead singer, but how did he come into the picture?
Yeah, it was a recommendation from AFM Records. Like I spoke to my product manager and I said, look, we're gonna need a new singer for this album and the world tour that'll follow. And it's kind of ironic, there is no world tour now, but anyways.
It will come eventually. I mean, eventually it will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we will go out there and do it, of course. But anyway, so and they were like, well, how about Herbie Langens? And they just sent me an email with a bunch of links and from the stuff he has done. And I remembered him because I had listened to him from Sinbreed like years and years ago. And I was like, that's the dude from that band. I remember, because I remembered him back then listening to him. I'm like, wow, this guy reminds me so much of our first singer, Stephen Frederick. And I was like, he would be ideal for Firewind. And that was like back then when Apollo had quit the band. But anyways, the band went on a hiatus back then. It didn't work out. So, and I was like, wow, this is the guy. I'm like, is this guy available? So can you ask him? And so they asked him, and they put us in touch, and then we started talking, and he was interested in the whole thing, and then I told him, look, this is the situation. Like we have the music, but we don't have the lyrics and the vocal lines, and I mean, back then we had also the deadline. We have like 6 or 7 weeks to finish it all, and then you know how it is. Like you do this, you have a deadline, you deliver, and then before you know it, promo starts, then the world tour starts. It's like, so can you do it? So, and he was up for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You kept hitting him with another one and another one. It's like, I want you in the band. I need some lyrics, and we have 7 weeks. Go.
Yeah. It was like I have to say, man, it was not. I don't think there would be many guys who would, as exciting as it sounds, it can also be a very stressful situation. So I don't think there could be many guys that could pull it off because, I hit him with a lot, like, because he had to jump in a situation where, he has to write this. He has a specific time frame. I mean, he wasn't alone. We did it together, and Dennis Ward was there to sort of steer the ship, and help us out with lyrics and vocal lines here and there. So, but the time limit, the deadlines, and right after that, the thought of jumping straight into a tour, also debuting a new lineup, all these things. It was a task, and but the guys, he has great voice, great ability, and it was good that he is also a songwriter. He can write stuff, so I needed to have that back in the band where a solid co-writer, a writing partner. So, and of course, once you say yes to such a thing, there's also so many things that can go wrong. Like, what if we didn't click? What if, what if things didn't go as expected? And so maybe we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about this album, but it all went well in the end. Yeah.
Do you feel like the Firewind has, in my opinion, Firewind has a DNA? You need great guitars, you need a great vocalist. Now I believe in this record, you have those two elements definitely that really give the power, the backbone, the DNA that the album needed. You feel like that is the core of every Firewind album?
Yeah, I think so, man. It's like a little bit of like a blueprint of like a classic rock band from the 70s where you had like a really good guitar player and next to a great singer, and it's and that made sort of like the whole thing come together, and originally that's what it was back in the day, with me and Stephen Frederick. Like it was when we first signed to Leviathan Records. David Chastain basically wanted to help me put a band to sort of showcase my talent, so to speak, and here's this young guy from Greece, and then he was smart about it. Like, you put this guy next to a great singer, and boom, you have something special happening. And I think that's why those first 2 albums also stood the test of time. And that sort of became the thing that Firewind was known for. Like great singing, good guitar playing, I hope so.
No, I think you're covered on that front. I think you're fine.
Yeah, and but it's also about the songs as well. Like, to me, it was always about the songs, and I'm glad that I've been reading a lot of reviews about the record, and I think a lot of people are finally hearing that and giving that sort of that credit. That I mean, it's not only that, okay, you have somebody who can shred and somebody who can sing great, but can they make good music? Can this translate into an audience? I don't know, just to people, so can this resonate with the audience? And I think we've managed this to a certain point.
I think as I look at this record, the way I view it is, first you're attracted to it by the incredible guitar playing that you have. It's an absolute clinic throughout the album, and obviously the incredible vocals. But that's the 2 first things that you notice. But then that, to me, like you just said, it's not enough to keep you captivated throughout a whole record. You need to have songs that are really well constructed, really well put together. You need a little bit of meat on the bone, and I felt that this record had a lot of meat on the bone. It was not just what you would expect from a Firewind record. That there's a lot more to digest as you go through it. It has a little bit of an old school feel, but still very modern. Do you feel that way about it as well?
Yeah, and I think that's what always that kind of like the spirit of this band was, like somehow to blend in the old school and somehow hard to put into words, but yeah, blend the old school with something more modern and more fresh, so to
Yeah.
speak, and like, bring that kind of old school element into today's sound with today's production, and yeah, sort of carry on to the future. That's how I always imagine, you know, the classic heavy metal sound to sort of be in the present.
Hmm.
I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying, but yeah. So I think that's what it was all about, and of course, it was about songs. I mean, to me, you need to have songs that stick with you. Like you need to have great vocal lines. You need to have stuff that is going to translate great live. We were never just like a studio project. We were a live band. I mean, it took us a while until we became a live band, but that was always the ultimate goal. That this is a internationally touring band, like on a worldwide level. So.
Hmm. And you mentioned a couple of songs. I have to ask you about two songs that, as I went through the record, these two, the first time through, they immediately smacked me in the face. And the first one is Devour. My God, man, the guitars on Devour, like, how did, I don't even know what to ask you. Like, how did you put those together? How did that song all came about? Because that song is just absolutely incredible on all levels,
Wow.
vocally and guitars, but specifically the guitars are just
Thanks.
something out of this world.
Thanks. I wanted to put this out as a single. That was my idea initially, to have this as a lead single, but somehow I didn't get the feedback that I wanted from the people that I played it for. So I kind of like put it on the side. But I think is one of the standout tracks on the
Yeah, exactly. I
record.
100%. Like, I mean, like, I don't know what to say. To me, it had a
Well,
little bit of prog to it as well. It was just like, it was what an incredibly, not only from the sound, but the way you created the structure of the track itself is magnificent. It's one of those tracks that, 10 years, 20 years from now, people will still talk about this song. It's really outstanding.
hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's thank you. It's I mean, I've been, for me, it's easy to make songs like that in that tempo, especially this kind of like 6/8 type of feel, in musical terms. Anyways, I mean, we've had songs like that in the past many times. I always sort of include one song at least like that on every record, like with Allegiance or Burning Earth, the title track. So stuff like that. But I think this one, I think I've kind of like captured the essence of this type of beat, this type of vibe on this record with this song, with Devour. And it's funny that you mentioned this. This is the first song that I wrote with Herbie.
Oh, wow.
When he first, like, okay, we were talking about, okay, let's do this. I said to him, can I send you one of my new riffs and then see if you can write something over it? And so I sent him the riff to Devour, and then the next day he sent me back the vocal line for that. It was not called Devour at that time, but the vocal line was there, the idea, and I was like, wow. To me, this is Firewind. This is how Firewind should have always sounded. But yeah, I mean, I uh, I think I had like, it goes back into explaining how I wrote it. Like I had the riff, I had the riffs, and I put it down, and then like I put that kind of like middle section with the, I sort of developed the solo section later on as at a separate session, and I was in the mood for writing more adventurous stuff, so I was like, okay, I'll just go a little bit crazier with it, instead of, and I just started creating all these sort of themes and stuff, and yeah, I wanted to have this breakdown on the beat, so it's not like always this kind of, you know, double bass throughout, like
Yeah,
for like
yeah.
4 minutes long. So I think about these things, thinking about the arrangement. So I think it came a little bit from putting in a bit more thought into just making one more power metal song. So yeah, shows you that, if you spend a little bit more time with the arrangement and the song itself, you need to have obviously the core idea that
Mhm.
it has to be strong enough. But then the more you dig into the arrangement, then you can do more things. And anyways, yeah, I like that song a lot too.
Me too, man. It's like my absolutely favorite track on the album. It's not your typical power metal track. There's a lot more to it. It may feel that way the first time you listen to it, but when you start analyzing the track and see everything under the hood and how you constructed the song, it's just a powerful track. I was actually, when I went through the album, I was shocked that you guys didn't release it as a single, but because I
Well,
think it's one of those songs that just comes in and and it's like a bull in a china shop. It just like destroys everything around it, you know.
We have done that mistake in the past. We have chosen wrong songs for singles, but I mean, I'm not saying the songs that we chose now
No, but the songs you
are
released
wrong.
were good too.
Yeah, very good. So it was like a good problem that we had this time, because it was like, believe me, it was a lot of discussion, like with people at the label, and also in the band, and people around us. So like my business partner is like, which song? What's the single? I mean, I knew, like, okay, Rising Fire is like a pretty obvious choice for a single, but I knew at the same time, putting out a song like that, okay, it's a little bit more commercial or radio friendly, but that's not the record that that's not like the song that represents the record the best. It's just a really cool heavy track. There's more stuff to it, like I was saying in the beginning. So that was the problem that we had this time. Which songs do you pick up for a single to choose as representatives? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. I mean, the record, there's not one throwaway track in there. There's not like a track that when you listen to it, I can skip this one because I want to get to this specific song. The record really works as a whole. It's obviously it's made up of different songs, but to me it works as a whole. There's no throwaway track on this album.
Cool. Thank you, man. Thanks.
And another great song that I absolutely love, I have to ask you this, is "Longing to Know You." What a beautiful, like, I felt that track was so emotional. It had so much emotion built into it, not only just in the sound, but in how the lyrics and the vocals were being delivered. How did you guys put that track together?
Actually, I mean, writing the song was the music came to me like in 10 minutes. It was like one of those songs. Sorry, I'm back. So, I mean, like, musically, it was a song that it just came to me, and I just wrote it on the acoustic guitar really kind of fast, actually. And I had the idea, I recorded it, and originally it was like this instrumental, and I had this melody over it, and I wasn't sure if it was also. I mean, I have an instrumental version. Maybe I should release that at some point in the future, like just with a guitar melody. It was totally different, but. And then when Herbie came in, we started sort of working on the vocal melodies. And, he had this idea for the lyric about this astronaut that is up there on space. And, this is the song where he's sort of missing his family, his wife and his unborn son. And so, there's a lot of emotion into this. And I wanted to take it to a step further. I'm like, I want to have this kind of like big cinematic type of orchestration. So I called up Adam Wakeman, who was my old bandmate in Aussie. So and Adam is excellent keyboard player, and he does beautiful orchestration. So I asked him, can you like write like an orchestra piece, strings and stuff? So he did all that. I think that added a lot to the track. It gave this kind of cinematic feel.
Yeah, it gave like a space odyssey feel to the track, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's a beautiful track. Was there a song on this album that gave you guys a little bit of a hard time to really nail it down to the way you want it to sound?
The song, the last song on the record, "Kill the Pain," that was an interesting story. Actually, even "Welcome to the Empire," to me, that was supposed to be like an instrumental originally. I've had that idea for like a couple of years, and it was supposed to be an instrumental for my solo record, but somehow it was never finished, and it didn't really make sense as an instrumental. I don't know. It was like all these different parts, and I was like, I have to put a vocal over it. And I knew that if I do this, it's going to be a really good track. And I was right about that.
Yeah.
So I don't regret that I put vocals on that song, because it's one of my favorites. But also "Kill the Pain," it was I accidentally a few months ago I stumbled upon this old demo of mine from 2005, from when we were making Allegiance album, and I'm like, why did this song make it into the Allegiance record? And there was these two riffs that were really killer. Like I had programmed my old drum machine and stuff. Like, it's kind of funny listening to my old demo like from 15 years ago. So I'm like, I'm gonna take this and rewrite it, redo it. So that was a little bit of a challenge, taking a couple of riffs that are cool, but it's like goes back into when I was 25 years old, and kind of like putting today's twist into it. And then adding lyrics and vocal lines over that. And then it was kind of, when we were doing the music, I had this kind of like middle section where I didn't know what I was going to do, like this kind of like I wanted to have this spacey type of vibe in there with a lot of guitars, and I don't know, like I wanted to have something in the middle section, some sort of a build up again to bring it back to the beginning. And we were in the studio tracking drums with Joe in Germany, and I wrote the solo section right there and then in between drum takes. I was like, okay, maybe we do this. I had a guitar there, and then we were like tracking the drums as I on the go as I was composing stuff. So and arrange. So it's like in a sense, it's like the song that has like full circle. You know, the oldest idea and the newest idea that I composed.
Yeah, it's like an old idea with a new delivery.
Yeah. So it's not usually that this happens, but it did happen on this one. I'm glad we included it.
As you look back at the finished product now, perhaps you can distance yourself from it a little bit. Where does this album rank for you among all the records that you've put together that you guys have released?
I think it's definitely right up there with the best, without a doubt. So it's definitely among my most favorite Firewind albums. I still love the previous record, Immortals. You know, it's a great record. I like Burning Earth very much personally, and you know, I like the Allegiance and Premonition era as well. Not all of the stuff, but most of it that we did back then. So, but yeah, this one is right up there with all these records. Time will tell. I mean, I'm right now. Obviously, I'm very excited about the record, and I never regret about the record that I made. Even though I have my favorites and my least favorites, because I look at them as a snapshot of where I was at a certain time in my life. But at the end of the day, I think you have to wait until a few years down the line and see what did this record mean for the time. How does your fan base rate this? Is this, or also how do any of these songs stay on the set list like 5 years down the line, or do you barely only play one of them? So
Yeah.
this is how I rank like the material. Like, how do people still want to hear about this? Do people want us to play these songs live? Do we still want to keep it in the set list? How many of those songs are in the set list? So, well, it's just we have to wait. We have to be patient and see how does this age with time.
Yeah, if it stands the test of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have one more question for you, and that is, well, with the situation that's going on in the world, you talk about a world tour. Obviously, everything is on hold right now because there's no tours, summer festivals, everything is canceled. Here in Canada, our summer has been canceled. It's snowing right now, so winter is having a strong return. What are you guys planning for promotion of the record? Are you planning on doing maybe some guitar playthroughs? It's hard for you guys to do like a live stream. So do you have any plans in your mind to do something in the meantime?
Well, we're sort of improvising like the rest of the world is right now. Yeah, we will release a lot more content. We will try. I'm planning to film a bunch of stuff, playthroughs, all kind of things. We're probably going to do a couple of lyric videos. I don't know if we're going to get to do another video at some point, like an official video. So, it'll be hard to get the band to do a live stream because everybody lives in different countries. If at some point we can travel and it's safe, I would like to get the band in a room and, do a live stream or film rehearsals, like record properly stuff. But it'll all depend. I would like to have everybody together in the same room if that is possible. I think it will be possible later this year. And then, of course, we're waiting to see when we can go back out on the road. That's the next step.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys promote this record on the road because this album is fire.
Thanks, man. We were supposed to be in Toronto this month or next month, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. It's I mean, everybody's on the same boat, so I'm not the one to complain. There's people going through a lot of tougher times than us, but it's it's something, at least it gives us something to look forward to, and I'm definitely looking forward to you guys visiting Toronto, so I can go and check you guys out live and see you guys playing Devour live. I'm assuming that's going to be on the set list.
It will be for sure. Yeah.
You'll see me in the front row with no shirt on, going absolutely crazy.
All right, cool.
I don't know if you want to see that, but you're gonna have to see it either way. You don't have a choice.
It's all good, man. Yeah. Yeah, you have to express yourself, so.
All right. Thank you very much for your time today. Best of luck with the release. This album is absolutely magnificent. For those that haven't picked it up, I highly recommend going and getting it, because it's one of those albums that is just, you need to have it in your collection. And during these dark times will give you something to smile about.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take it easy. Bye, Pedro.